9 out of 10 startups, according to statistics, fail. The probability that you will join the next Google or PayPal or WhatsApp is quite low. Frankly, I would not bet on it. Like, always look at the opportunities from strategic perspective. Like, what can I gain other than financial rewards? You have a thought of starting your own company. So that's as close to starting your own business as it can possibly be. There is no such thing, I guess, like an experience of working at Google in general. It's always experience of working on particular business. Lots of jobs will become obsolete and irrelevant. Like, lots of function will be eliminated. So you do need to explore different routes and learn different skills.
But according to our investigators' report, we find that Mr. Green doesn't have a steady income.
Hi everyone, my name is Varia and this is Shameless Careers, a podcast about finding a career you're passionate about. Today, my guest is Ekaterina Kaligina. Ekaterina was lucky enough to see both sides of the employment spectrum. Early in her career, she joined a Series A startup in San Francisco, which ended up exiting later on. And then she was at Google, where she was head of product marketing at Google Play in EMEA. Ekaterina is now an angel investor and a limited partner at a VC fund, Partech Venture. So, Ekaterina, thank you so much for being here with me today. Look forward to asking you, first of all, how did you choose such a successful startup back when you were working in San Francisco? How would you compare working for this startup versus working for a big tech giant Google? And of course, which path did you find more fulfilling? Let's go back to your times in San Francisco before you joined Unity, the startup that I was talking about. Did you consider going and working for a big tech firm back then, or did you want to join a fast-growing startup? Like, how did you think about your next career step back then?
Well, I came to Silicon Valley a long time ago. Actually, most of my adult and professional life I spent there. I went to school, so I studied business, and it was my dream, as many people who come to Silicon Valley, to have a successful career in technology company. So preferably good technology company, something well known. And for me, it was a bit challenging because I'm not a technical person, so my background is a business. So most people who are coming to Silicon Valley, so they are pursuing careers in technical field, and so as a business person, so it's harder to start. It's harder to get going. So my first job after graduation was actually at the marketing agency. I was working on accounts for Microsoft, and I was dreaming to work at Microsoft at the time. I didn't get a job at Microsoft, but I did get a job at Microsoft competitor at the time, VMware. And I spent a few years there. And while I was there, so another idea emerged. I wanted to work at some cool, fast-growing startup. And that's how I started looking around and eventually found a job at Unity. That's how it all got started.
So, and can you tell me, how did you find the startup and how did you assess if it's going to be a successful startup later on?
I did interview with a number of companies. Back in the day, I was looking for a cool startup, but Unity actually found me. Somebody I used to work at VMware reached out and said, like, "Hey, would you like to work with us? There is this cool company. We are looking to grow the team. We're looking for somebody to help us with online marketing," which was my specialty at the time. I did some research. The company seemed really cool. So it was working on building gaming software. This is a platform for developing 3D interactive content. And all gaming companies were taken off at the time. So obviously they all needed tools to build games. And Unity seemed to be quite a popular tool at the time. And it already had some market traction. So it had about 90,000 registered developers, most of them were using the tool for free, but it did have paying customers as well. And it just got funding from a very reputable VC firm in Silicon Valley, Sequoia. I really liked the team, specifically the founders, so three really interesting, driven guys from Europe. One German, one from Copenhagen, so Danish, and another Icelandic. So seemed like a cool group of people. So it didn't take me a long time to decide to join the company. So I just joined the ship.
Did you have any doubts or hesitations in the sense that obviously moving from a bigger firm where you used to work into a smaller, like it was Series A, I believe, right?
It was a Series A, yeah.
Series A startup. Like, did it feel risky? What it was like when you joined the company? Did you feel like any doubts or fears that it's a smaller place and whether it's gonna succeed or not?
Not really, because like at that time I wanted to have startup experience, and I thought like if it doesn't work out, I can just join another startup or go back to a big company. I think back then, so it was pretty low risk for me.
It didn't feel like
at least how I viewed it. But I was much younger also, so it was easy to take risk. And also like being an immigrant, because like I came to the United States from Russia, so you're already taking a huge risk. So taking risks is easier for me in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you tell me, so if someone is looking to join a Series A startup, what criteria should they look at in order to kind of increase the likelihood that they're joining a successful story? Like, which criteria would you recommend them to look at?
Well, first, of course, look at the business. Is the company solving a real problem? I guess like at the Series A should be clear because the company already got funding. It probably got some market traction, so there are customers and there is revenue. Otherwise, it wouldn't have got Series A funding. So that's given. Look at how compatible you are with the team. How do you feel about the people you will be working with? Think like venture capitalists. Venture capitalists usually say would rather invest in a company with B idea and A team than the company which have an amazing idea, A idea with B team. I think it's really, really important. Do you like the people? Do you feel inspired by the team? Because the company is small, so you'll be spending a lot of time working with those people. So make sure it's the right team. And of course, look at things like how much experience you will get and how helpful it would be in your future career. Because the companies come and go, so startup can work, but it can fail. Look what you can gain other than potential financial rewards.
Yeah, so like strategically, does this experience make sense for your career, even if the financial payoff doesn't materialize, right?
Exactly.
And on that note, actually, when you think about joining this type of startup, can you bet on this financial payoff? Or is it more kind of luck that's kind of a low probability thing? Because I think many people who want to join this type of fast growing stories, they kind of think, okay, now I'm going to find this amazing company. The financial payoff is going to be great. But actually, like, how likely is it? And maybe if it's not as likely, it's better to think of this decision more from the strategic lens that, okay, I want to join the startup for something else, rather than betting on this financial payoff that is kind of not super likely. So how should you think about it?
Well, look at the statistics, right? So 9 out of 10 startups, according to statistics, fail. And obviously, the degree of risk goes down depending on the stage of the company. For seed stage startups, the probability of the company going down is probably higher than 90%. For Series A, it's obviously lower, but still probably 1/3 of the companies would also go down of business or have a very limited payoffs. The probability that you will join the next Google or PayPal or WhatsApp is quite low. Frankly, I would not bet on it. Like always look at the opportunities from strategic perspective, like what can I gain other than financial rewards, and going back to the team, would I actually enjoy the experience of working in this company and working with these people.
And if someone is choosing between joining Series A, Series B, Series C, and D startup, I have heard that at different stages of startup development, the type of work is very, very different. So can you tell me a bit more about what are the key differences one needs to be aware of between those stages? Both, I guess, in terms of type of work, but also in terms of financial payoff that you could get if you join on various of those stages.
Well, obviously, like the earlier you join, so the smaller the company is, and potentially financial rewards are higher, but also there are more risks involved. And the type of work you would be doing might be quite different. At an earlier stage, you might be wearing quite a lot of hats. So you might join to do X type of job, X type of work, but that would evolve very rapidly in half a year. You might be doing tons of other different things, and like a year or two after, so your job might look completely different. So it's a very, very fast-paced and evolving environment. At the later stage, things get more stable. Obviously, like if you're joining Series D, so it's probably clearly defined role and clearly defined scope of work that would not be that much different from working for a bigger company.
And coming back to the point that you've mentioned, that statistics shows that you can't really bet on this financial payoff. So can you tell me a bit more? What are the benefits of working for a fast-paced, for a fast-going startup? If we put finances aside, like why would you work for a fast-growing company? What type of experience could be cool to get from that space?
Well, first and foremost, it's an opportunity to try different things and to wear many different hats. If you're the type of person who wants to do it, that's a place to be. Obviously, like you like clearly structured, well-defined environments and tasks. That's probably not the right place for you. But if you're, say, early in your career, you want to do different things, or you in general prefer entrepreneurial environment, that's definitely your opportunity. If you ever thought of starting your own company, so that's as close to starting your own business as it can possibly be. So definitely, if you're an entrepreneurial person, so definitely try this route.
And is this type of experience valued when you're joining a bigger company afterwards? So if someone wants to say, like, okay, I'm gonna try to work for a startup, but then maybe like I will see if I like it, but then I'm gonna move to big corporate afterwards. Is this experience generally valued, or is it by big corporates, or is it more seen like a detour?
It's definitely valued, especially in the places like Google or Meta, so places, big tech companies which value innovation. They really like to hire people with some kind of startup experience. So when I was joining Google, so my startup experience came as a big plus, as a big competitive advantage. And I know for a lot of engineers, it's also good to have some kind of startup experience before joining bigger companies as well.
And why do you think that's the case? Is it because these people are like kind of take initiative and are more business minded or don't think in silos, and that's kind of what this type of companies want to attract?
People take more initiatives. People who worked in startup typically take more initiatives. They're more flexible, which is important in all environments, in big companies as well, because things change, and at any workplace you gotta be, at most workplaces you gotta be flexible and adaptable. and the best way to learn how to be more flexible is to work in startup. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned this because I spoke to someone else about if you decide to become an entrepreneur and whether this experience is valued by big corporates. And here I have heard kind of mixed reviews. So on the one hand, yeah, like everything that you said holds, but what he said was like, bigger companies who hire ex-entrepreneurs also kind of suspect that you are too independent and maybe a bit more difficult because like once you've left corporate world to do something on your own, you are not like your classic corporate soldier. And some companies are kind of a bit worried hiring people with ex-entrepreneur background. But I don't know, would you agree with this?
Again, it depends on the company.
Right.
So big companies also vary quite a bit. So some are more entrepreneurial and flexible. So the other are more traditional. I mean, if you talk about like financial services, obviously those companies are much more traditional and much more stable. So for those type of companies, having somebody with too much of an entrepreneurial background could be seen as a cons rather than pro. But again, like in a bigger tech company, like places as Google, like I worked there, so I know the culture pretty well. I think it's seen as a positive thing, and I think people in big companies, again, in big tech companies, they're not so much worried that you can leave because people tend to change. People in tech tend to change jobs quite frequently, so it's seen as norm these days.
So interesting. I would say it's quite industry dependent then. Really interesting. And before we move to your time at Google and your experience there, let's touch upon challenges working for a fast growing startup. Can you tell me, I understood all the upsides, feeling like entrepreneurial, wearing many hats, but what are the challenges and kind of more difficult things that people need to be aware of as they think about joining a fast growing company?
Well, one, I guess it's obvious, it's much more work. So the work is interesting, but it can be quite demanding. So it can be very long hours. And the fact that you get to try a lot of different things sometimes lead to lack of focus. So kind of jumping between doing different things, doing different projects. So that can be challenging. Also, when the company is growing very fast, it's obviously cool, but there are challenges associated with rapid growth. So like not enough people to do the work. People can't hire so fast enough. Infrastructure is always lagging behind the growth, like financial systems and just in general, any type of business systems and processes are never in place to support fast growth. So you have to deal with that, and that can be very time consuming and very challenging.
So let's shift gears and move back to the time when you decided to leave Unity and join Google. So how did this decision come about? Kind of, why didn't you join, for example, another fast-growing startup? Why did you decide to go for like a big tech firm?
Well, I guess like at the time I decided to shift gears, like after having very exciting few years at a startup where I learned a lot, but those years have also been quite challenging from work-life balance perspective. Basically, the time I worked at uni, I was just working and traveling because the company was originally from Europe, and a big part of the team was still in Europe, so I spent quite a lot of time in Denmark, also going to various events and conferences. So basically, half of my time I was either traveling or just working late nights and weekends. So 24/7, that was pretty much lifestyle, and there is only as far as you can go. At some point, you need to take a break and shift gears. And again, like at that time, actually, after I left Unity, so like I took a short break, and was doing a bit of consulting. So it was easier, a bit of an easier workload, and then I decided to join a bigger company. Again, like two reasons. So to have a more balanced lifestyle, but also it was also my dream back then to work at Google. So which I viewed as the best big tech company, and I wanted to have that experience and see how Google works from inside.
And what it was like, yeah.
And what it was like, yeah.
And how does your experience at Google compare to your experience in Unity? I guess it was a big contrast, right, between two types of work.
Well, obviously, like when I joined Google, I was joining a very big company with more than 100,000 people working there at the time. But I have to say that it was still quite entrepreneurial, because like I joined the business which was fairly young, so Google Play. So it was still growing at a very fast pace. So it felt a bit like a startup, although of course it was way bigger than Unity.
It's so interesting that you mention it, because even the experience in a big corporate can be so different depending on which part of this business you work for. It can be like either dull and institutional, or if it's a fast-growing younger kind of space, then it may feel like quite startup-y, I guess, right?
Yes, yeah, I completely agree with you. So there is no such thing, I guess, like a experience of working at Google in general. It's always experience of working on particular business. If it's fairly young, if it's a new initiative, it would be very different than working, for example, on the advertising side of business, which has been around for a very long time.
And for you, was it important that it's fast growing and young? Like, did you feel like you still wanted to have this entrepreneurial side even in a big firm?
Yes. It was actually my goal, because like, I didn't want to join just any type of business at Google. Like I'd never considered joining advertising side of business. Even my background was always in marketing, so for me it would make sense to join it, but I just didn't feel like doing it. Like I still wanted something fast-paced and something growing with lots of opportunities, and again, like under umbrella of a big company.
Yeah. And how was this experience in practice? Like, how entrepreneurial was it really in comparison to working for an actual kind of fast-growing startup?
It was, I guess, like it was and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So there were different opportunities, and we were encouraged to take initiatives and start different projects. And in general, people and Google, I guess, like almost at any side of business, so they are encouraged to propose something and propose something new, and generally supported in the initiative. The thing is, you can start something new, but the probability that you will see your new project go into fruition sometimes is low, because priorities change very quickly in bigger companies, and sometimes it happens for all kinds of reasons. So for organizational, from organizational structure perspective, they don't make a lot of sense, or some initiatives don't get funding anymore. Again, for bigger reasons, like outside of the immediate or future impact of the project you're working on. So from that perspective, it can be quite challenging. Yes, you can start something new, but then at some point your project can be put on hold or just discontinued. So that's a frequent thing, and that can be quite frustrating. So, and I think that's the main challenge from working in a smaller company and working in a bigger company, because like there are all kinds of factors which are in play and which can impact the future of your initiatives, of your project you're working on.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, on the one hand, you have this stability, you have this institutional backing, resources. But on the flip side, again, because you're part of this big organization, yeah, you are kind of dependent on their priorities, their funding, and kind of, yeah, that's kind of the trade-off, yeah, that you need to face.
Yeah.
If you try to be an entrepreneur within a bigger place, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
And taking stock of all of kind of the two types of experiences that you have in a startup and at Google in a big company. So what would you say are pros and cons for working in each? And if someone kind of decides, should I go and to a big tech firm and start building my career here, or should I go to a fast growing startup? Like, what would you say are the main pros and cons that this person needs to be aware of?
I think it really depends which stage of career you're at and what your main goals at the moment are, because they change. I'm sure like everybody's goals change as we progress through life and through career. So bigger companies, obviously, you always have more stability, financial stability. So there is better work-life balance. Startups have more opportunities for growth, but they can be quite chaotic. And from financial perspective, it's quite a risky bet. But then you learn a lot. So I would say, like if you're to start your career, so probably doesn't really matter that much. If you join a startup you're very passionate about, or if you have a really cool business idea and you really want to start your company, just do it. If you don't have a very strong conviction, like you have a business idea or you would like to work in an entrepreneurial company, but you're still not quite sure which one, then go for a bigger company. So I think it's good to start career at a bigger company and learn some specific skills, because when you go to startup, so you have to deliver from day one, and if you don't have a lot of experience or you don't have specific skills which you can bring to the table from day one, so that might be a challenge. So maybe spending a few years in a bigger company would be good, and it would also help you gain experience, and also would help you land an interesting job in a startup, because startups do value experience of working in a bigger company. And if you're mid-career, again, like it all depends. What your specific goals are. Like a friend of mine actually likes to change every few years between a startup and a big company. That's how you get variety. So that's another approach to take. So you spend some time at a big company, then go to startup, then come back to a big company, and then go to startup. So that's another route.
So do you see kind of many people jumping from a big tech to startup and vice versa? Or do you feel like it's more typical to see people preferring just staying in the startup land or in the big tech land?
It's a good question. I think generally people are either like startup, like more startup type of person, or a bigger company type person, but then you still see quite a lot of switching, especially these days. Things are changing so quickly, new technologies emerge so quickly, people change environments fairly fast.
And would you say that kind of there are different types of personalities that are suitable for each environment? For example, for a big corporate versus a smaller startup, like if someone basically thinks, what type of person am I, the startup person or a big tech person? kind of what type of qualities can signal to them that they're more suitable for a particular for one of these two environments?
It probably goes to your appetite for risk. Are you more of a risk taker, or you prefer more stable environment in general? So risk taking and really the ability to handle large workloads. Not to say that people at big companies don't work a lot. They do, but the roles are more clearly defined, and the type of work you do is generally more clearly defined. So it really depends, like what you're more comfortable with more clearly defined workload and roles and responsibilities, or you're the type of person who likes to wear many different hats and try yourself in different roles. So I think that's probably the key: risk taking and your flexibility, how flexible you are.
And for you personally, which type of experience did you find more fulfilling? Working for a big tech company, for Google, or working for Unity, a fast-growing startup?
I like them. I like them both in different ways. And there was definitely interesting experiences I had at Unity. And there were definitely very interesting experiences I had at Google. I met more people when I was working at Google, just because it's a bigger company. Got an opportunity to work with different international teams. So that was very valuable. So it was an opportunity to see how big company works from while being inside. And
an amazing network. An amazing network as well, right?
And great network, yes, yeah, for sure. And Unity was just this fast growing and fast fueled startup adventure. So it was an opportunity to actually create something from the scratch. So there was that sense of ownership and sense of pride, like seeing your projects from fruition to helping the companies eventually propel and become a public company. I was not there when it became a public company, but I was very proud when it was going public and seeing the amazing growth, because I joined the companies when there were 90 people. Now there are thousands of people working there. So these are just different stages of my life and different types of experience, but they're all special.
And obviously you are now an investor. Can you tell me how fulfilling does that feel in comparison to your previous work experiences?
Well, this experience is quite different from anything I've had before, because I used to work for companies, and now I'm on my own. So it's quite similar to running your own business. So I enjoy it. It gives me an opportunity to work with different projects, different entrepreneurs, and make my own bets, which I like. Sometimes it's challenging because you're betting with your own money. The things don't go well. It's quite stressful, but it is quite rewarding if they do go well.
Yeah.
If they do go well. So, and I enjoy that type of role, that type of life.
Do you prefer this to be on this side of like being an investor versus being an operator and doing things yourself, or kind of, again, these all experiences are special in their own ways?
They're all different in their own ways. Sometimes I do miss being on operating side of things, and I might go back. You never know, right? So it's probably not the end of my professional journey. So there might be something down the line. So there might be an operating role. They might be studying an actual business, product business, service business of my own at some point.
Oh, right.
I'm open to it. Yeah, life is a journey, as we say.
So based on taking stock of all of the experiences that you've had, what do you think is the recipe for a fulfilling career? Because this is a very kind of abstract and difficult question that each of us needs to ask ourselves. So how do you answer this for yourself?
I don't think there is a recipe. I don't really think there is one recipe which can be applied to everyone. You find what is important to you at this stage of life and be honest, and be really honest. Do you really want to pursue entrepreneurial route, and you have this very strong idea you want to bring to life, or you're very, very passionate by someone else's idea and want to join startup, or you're at the stage where work-life balance is more important for you and you want something more stable. I think it's really important to be honest with where you are in life and what your interests are at this particular stage of life. And they change, all right? So, and you can change careers as well. So there is this whole notion of portfolio careers, trying different things and at different stages of your career, of your life, which I find quite intriguing, and which I think will become more and more relevant in the age of AI.
Can you tell me more about that? So why do you think, how will AI affect that?
Because look, lots of jobs will become obsolete and irrelevant. Lots of function will be eliminated. So you do need to explore different routes and learn different skills. So it's important to try, and I wouldn't rule out starting completely new career at some point of the life journey.
And last question, what has there been any TED Talk, book or podcast that has made an impact on you and that you would recommend to others who are looking for a fulfilling career?
I like Tim Ferriss' podcast. I used to listen him way back in the day in Silicon Valley, so he inspired me back then, and the whole idea of working at startups, experimenting and changing environment, and actually that portfolio career, I think he was the one who started talking about portfolio careers way before it became mainstream.
And let's maybe finish off on the notion of portfolio careers. If you're saying it's going to be a bigger and bigger trend, what could this look like in practice? How can people start pivoting their careers towards a portfolio career setup?
I guess exploring different interests and carving time for their interest in parallel to what they are already doing. So that could look like, you have your corporate job, and on the side, so you're experimenting with your podcast, because that's something you are passionate about, and starting small, and then at some point it can grow bigger and become your full-time thing, and you can run that as your business for a number of years. At some point you go back to what you did before. So having that flexibility of switching between things, between different areas of your expertise, that's a way to go, I think. And just keep in mind, one can take priority at any given stage of your life. And you can always go back to what you did if you wanted to.
Yeah, makes sense. Ekaterina, thank you so much for being here with me today. And I wish you best of luck on your journey ahead.
Thank you for having me.